Welcome, golf fans, pursuers of knowledge and the almighty dollar. This is your golf guru bringing you the 2022 Valero Texas Open. This is my preview show. Going to give you the course breakdown, go through all the analysis, get your mind start thinking about the Valero. Of course, we're going to have a focus on the bets. I'm going to give you my favorite bets. I'm going to give you my long shot. Even going to talk a little one and done. And then first and foremost, we are going to go and just do a real quick recap of the Dell match play. And with that said, thank you for stopping by. Give me about 30 to 45 minutes and we'll get through this and get you guys on your way to hopefully a little better DFS and bets for this week if you didn't do well last. All right, let's talk some golf. Okay, first let's talk about the giveaway I have for the Masters tournament that's upcoming next weekend. And as I've been talking with some of you folks that have been with me for a while, any of you guys that signed up using my Golf Guru promo code for prize picks, I took all those spiffs. I am now giving it back to you guys. It only ended up being a little less than $500, but I'm going to go ahead and do 5 giveaways for $100 each. So 5 winners, random selected, and all you need to do to get into this giveaway is simply like this video, share it with anybody else that you think might like it. Subscribe if you're not a subscriber, because I need you to tell me down in the YouTube comments who's your favorite to win the Masters. So again, real quickly, summarize. I'm giving away 5 winners, $100 each. I'll shoot that over to you in PayPal if you win. It's going to be random. And how do you get your name into this random generated draw? Click that like button and subscribe if you're not subscribed. And tell me in the YouTube comments below, who do you think is going to win this upcoming Masters? Okay, so real quick, let's talk about the Dell match play. I hope it went a little better for you guys. I mean, I didn't do bad and I didn't do great. It wasn't as good as last year, but this did a real good job kind of summarizing, and we'll dive a little more into the details. So, of course, what was a little different this year is you had 8 of the top 16 top seeds advance, which that I think it was 1 out of 16 last year. So that ties the tournament record. So we had a ton of guys that, were the A players that made it out of their group play, pod play, whatever you want to call it. Takumi Kanaya, which, it's kind of funny. I mentioned that we had 2 Asian players, we'll say, and I just had a feeling one of them would get out, and Takumi actually made it out, but then got knocked out in the Sweet 16. Of course, Kevin Kisner, which was one of my picks and was kind of one of my saving graces for the WGC Dell match play from a DFS perspective. I think he's got like 22 or 23 wins now on Austin Country Club. I'm sure you heard that multiple times. So pretty safe pick, whatever it's getting into match play. Of course, he was a runner-up in 2018, won in 2019, made it again to the finals, and of course was runner-up. Richard Bland, which was one of my picks, and I was hoping to see him. Not gonna lie, it would have been nice to see him beat DJ. That would have helped out from a DFS perspective, but at least he did make it on to the Sweet 16, and then got knocked out by DJ. And then the number 1 player, of course, John Robb, did advance and got out of his grouping. Of course, I think I was picking Munoz, which I knew was a crazy long shot. But I was kind of thinking if Rahm was still going to be struggling with the putter and around the green, that the year before, Munoz took him to 18 holes before getting knocked out against the 2. So I was kind of hoping to see that happen again, but it did not. Okay, so of course, your winner was Scotty Scheffler, who is, of course, now also the number 1 player in the world. Won the last 3 out of his 5 tournaments. If he was playing in the Valero, which he was supposed to, but of course, after 100 and some holes of golf and just winning a WGC event now, he has pulled out of the tournament. That's no shocker. I think, I've been thinking about this. I think the 3 things that have really happened that I think kind of got Scotty over the hump, and this is my own opinion. Of course, he was like, world ranked 14th, 15th, a few months ago. And then he got, in November at the RSM, he got Ted Scott, a new caddy, who has a ton of experience. Right, Ted Scott was actually retiring, and Scotty Scheffler technically brought him out of retirement. I think it was him and Bubba played in, I don't know if it was the Zurich, but that's how they got to know each other, and it seems like it's been a great relationship. And since then, Scotty is just killing it, right? It's the year of the chef. That's what I was calling it. But anyway, so Scotty Scheffler, again, a lot like Kisner, was runner-up last year, lost to Horschel, and then, of course, won, I think, in a pretty convincing manner. He had DJ down by, in the, I don't even know what it was, a grade 8. Had him down, 5 holes going into the back, and then, of course, DJ made a charge. I think it was also interesting, and I had this noted. I don't know if I stated it, but that Scotty has played so much golf at the Austin Country Club. I think he's had over like 100 rounds through high school, amateur, knows the course. And as you saw, if you watched quite a bit of it, there is a lot of different places you need to drive the ball to get the runoffs correctly, to get the right positioning coming in. Of course, a lot of, I call it banking or terrain around the greens that if you know that where to shoot to have it come back. I mean, there is definitely some course history knowledge that comes into play. So amazing for Scotty Scheffler. He's going to take a break. Of course, he'll be at the Masters, and I'll be curious where his odds are for that. And then, of course, Kevin Kisner, top right. I can't even mention, a great tournament for Kiz. There's, 3 or 4 courses that he, like a Kevin Na, that he could do very well at, and he did it again. You could just see the putter finally ran out on the finals match. Just wasn't making any putts. And then probably the most shocking thing for me out of this whole WGC was Corey Connors. Corey played in this last year, went 0-3, but then funny enough, there was some intel about his match play in his more amateur days, and he had a ton of success at match play, beating the likes of like John Rahm, and they named a bunch of big names that he beat in amateur match play. The difference is that Corey Connors, he was making putts. I haven't seen him make that many putts since he won the Valero. So his putter definitely heated up. Even his tee to green game actually looked a lot better than what it was. His approaches were better. His driver's always, pretty reliable, 290 center. But that was the one that I missed. And even in that bracket where he was at, the answer Corey Connors bracket, that's where, I think I had Noren, I think, if I remember correctly, that bracket coming out of there. And then, of course, DJ, the only note that I've got to say about him is that, it was great to see. I don't think he liked being out of the top 10. I think he was top 11 going into that tournament. He's now back, I think now top 8 or number 8 player in the world, I guess, just to say. And what was interesting is that he brought back the Spider Monza putter that when he won the Masters and was having all that success, that was the putter he was using. And so he brought it back, put a different shaft in, and I think that's going to be a big difference. And if you look at a lot of the analysis that I showed for the WGC Match Play, showed how good of a putter he is and the success he's had here in other Bermuda. So it was kind of shocking because, I just wasn't seeing that from what I was watching, but, the data didn't lie. So good for DJ. And you could tell he just, I think he had the consolation match is just hard to watch on all fronts. I couldn't imagine playing in it. I mean, it's still a chunk of money. I'm guessing they get some kind of FedEx points too, of course, the way they're ranked when they come out of this thing. Oh, yeah, for me, I had Kisner for a one and done. So I was rooting for him a little bit, but funny enough, from a DFS perspective, I needed Scotty to do well. So actually, the two guys that were carrying me at the end were Scotty and Kisner. I had a $100 single entry that really kind of saved my whole weekend where I top 10 in that event. And then through the large tournament, I think I put in 20 entries because I have a good time or I have fun putting the entries in. And then, of course, as all of us, once after, I don't know, the group round ends, you're just, watching all your guys just blow up. It's not as fun. But again, I told you guys, embrace the chaos. I enjoyed it. Sunday, it's a hard watch if you don't have things involved. Oh, and I also parlayed on Sunday morning. I took Scheffler with Chad Ramey, I guess I should say. And so that paid me a little bit to help on the betting side. So that was kind of the two big things. So for me, it was kind of a wash from a betting and a DFS side. I didn't really make anything. And also, I did a little bit of showdown for Corrales, but nothing great there. All right, that's enough for the recap. Oh, I do have, of course, Chad Ramey won the Corrales Punta Cana. I don't have stroke gain data. All I had was that he gained 13 strokes. So I don't know how that breaks down, but I wanted to pull him up. The one thing that I noticed is, this guy we're going to keep an eye on whenever we do what I call the vacation swing or the island swing, because the guy shows up, he can play and win. I guess that's another thing we could look at with the, a 5th at Puerto Rico, a 17th at Bermuda. So you can see, like, a lot of these, he didn't do that great, but man, you get him. Of course, the fields are a little weaker, but still, had to play good golf. And at Bermuda, he gained 7.6, and at Puerto Rico, he gained 9. But again, we don't know the breakdown. And then Shriners before that, he had a good showing. That's a bit of a putting contest, but just thought I'd bring that up. Okay, so that wraps it up for the recap. Let's go talk about the Valero Texas Open. Okay, so we're on the second tournament of the Texas Swing. Of course, we're heading over to San Antonio, and they are celebrating 100 years of hosting a PGA tournament of some kind in this area. Of course, the Valero has actually been played at this specific course since 2010. And your architects is Greg Norman, and then the PGA consultant was Sergio Garcia, which is funny. Sergio doesn't usually typically play this course, which he wouldn't be a bad fit. Funny enough, I think his game would suit this course very well, but he just doesn't seem to play, maybe because of now where it's kind of fitting in. Also, there's another track here that is a Pete Dye course. I think it's the Canyons, if I remember off the top of my head, which I heard is a pretty cool course. I mean, this course, it's kind of boring, kind of blah on the first nine. There's not a whole lot that, is very interesting comparative to a lot of the tournaments we've been watching. But the back nine gets a little more interesting. So with that said, it's a par 72, and it is over 7,400 yards. So it's a bit of a big boy course, and it's all about getting off the tee and hitting fairways at this track. The fairways are Bermuda, but they have overseeded because it is that time of the year with rye. And same with the Bermuda greens. They put POA trivials and overseeded that. So again, for what does that mean to us? I mean, I wouldn't really look at it too far. Again, we could look at the Bermuda stuff as we usually do. There's always been a few withdrawals. I already mentioned Scotty Scheffler withdrew. I believe Cameron Young withdrew. There was a couple others. And we'll have to see how this keeps filtering as this goes on with some of the guys that came out of the match play. Of course, Corey Connors went all the way, and he's still in the field. And it's someone that, of course, I was interested in from a one-and-done perspective, but I'm terrified to see that much golf, how that's going to affect this 4-day tournament. Also, preparation, I'm not too worried about. He's played here 3 times, won it once, had a 14th place. So, yeah, we'll have to figure out one and done. I've got more information on that to get that start thinking. But we do have a field of 144 players. Pretty much everybody that played over at Corrales is literally playing here, and then we're going to sprinkle in a few of the, bigger name guys like a Rory. But it's a pretty weak field. I like that a lot of the guys are getting their prep work in for the Masters or taking a break. It's been a lot of golf for them after the Florida swing. You got the historical cut line over the past 3 or 4 years is a +1 to +3. Of course, last year, Jordan Spieth finally broke out and had a win, his first win since 2017, shooting 18 under. And then you got the Hoffman, which you saw on the cover, where, of course, it's the Hoffman Open, where he's, won almost $4 million. And the last 2 years, well, not 2020, but 2021 and 2019, he was your runner-up. Of course, Corey Connors, where he came on a lot of people's radars if you've been watching golf. Of course, he Monday qualified for this tournament and then went out and won it. And, he just went in fuego with the putter. But, of course, you throw Corey Connors, what he can do tee to green and give him a hot putter, he's going to win a lot. Not too far off from like a future Will Z. Now that Scotty Scheffler can putt inside of 6-7 feet. Look what he's doing. And then you had Landry, who shot 17 under 2018 and won. And it's very unique. So if you look at those guys, how I look at this is Spieth, and we'll look at the data, but the short of it is this course does not set up for one specific kind of player. Even when you first look at it, you're like, oh, big boy course, over 7,400 yards, par 72, long par 5s. You need bombers. Well, guys have done well here that are plotters, and guys have done well here that, can also hit the ball a little further. Good, great ball strikers. So we'll dive more into that and see how we're going to flush this out. A little larger than average greens here, 6,400 square feet. Not too crazy complex. I mean, there's a little bit of slope. They are elevated, but I've seen a lot of guys here. I haven't seen a lot, but quite a few people that have played here. I don't think it's that tricky, but you need to be a good putter, and that's the one thing that does show up. Hoffman, Spieth, Landry, and then, of course, Corey Connors. They all gained pretty significant strokes with the putter when they won. You got a lot of sand here. Now, it's only 64 bunkers, but they are huge, and they border the fairways. They border around the greens. It's probably one of the main course defenses, especially off the tee. You've also got only 3 water hazards here and only 3 holes come into play. If I think about, there's a par 3 that there's water in front of, and then on 18, there's kind of a creek that runs through that will show. And then these greens run just a hair slower than what we've been seeing. They're saying right now, at least from the superintendents, that are running at 11 on a stent meter, which means it's fast, but it's not like a 12, 13. It's not crazy fast, but who knows if they get dried out conditions. I'm guessing that they'll get faster as the weekend goes on. Course defense, it's all about getting off the tee here. You've got the trees, and you don't have a lot of rough. It's kind of like pretty large fairways, and then you're right in like this native grass, rocks, trees. So the key that I see is first getting off the tee, hitting fairways. I'm not worried about distance so much. I'm all worried about accuracy. When, of course, is Texas is going to show up typically. And then I got quite a few past notes, so I'll read what's on there, but I also have some more for you guys. I already kind of stated this. Skill sets vary from past winners. And yeah, you're looking for guys that hit fairways. And then really it's irons and putting and around the green that shows up. But funny enough, around the green is something that we're going to have to look at because last year it was a huge indicator of guys that finished in the top 10. And then the previous in 2019, for whatever reason, a lot of guys lost strokes around the green and still ended up top 10. So that's something else we have to dive into. And then some side notes that I have. Cameron Champ, this is his home course. This is where he practices at. I got large fairways, but still small, rough areas. Yep, we already kind of mentioned that. I've got greens have a lot of runoffs and false fronts, somewhat similar to Augusta. This is the second hardest course on tour to hit the greens, just behind Riviera and Harbor Town. And on here I have stated need to be good around the green. So there you go. It's kind of a flip. I've read that quite a bit, but then, like I said, I'll show you the data that I saw from 2019. Trey Molinex tied the course record with a 62 in 2018. Streamland has a couple top 10s, 2018, 2019. I mentioned look at Texans, Aussies, and South Africans have done really well, of course, due to the win. And then, of course, this is the course. It was on number 9, the par 4, where Kevin Na had the infamous 16, where she went back there, replayed it, and I think he cut down the trees. And yeah, it was a disaster. So if you want a funny watch, go on YouTube, put in Kevin Na, Valero shoots 16 over or whatever, 16 on a hole. Okay, I think that's enough. I think you got enough information about the course breakdown. Let's go take a look at the course real quick. This is just a real fast map. We're not going to spend a ton of time on this, but you can kind of get the lay of the land, right? You can see all the trees. You got this waste area within the trees if you don't get the tee-ball there. There's the par 3. I was talking about number 3 with the water that, you do have to carry. I mean, I don't think it's anything crazy. Of course, you're always going to hopefully take a little more distance to worry about that. If you look around these greens, a ton of sand. I told you they were deep. They also stated that they just renovated the sand traps for this year. I don't know if that means, because right now it's kind of a dark brown, kind of a dirty sand. It's not that white, fluffy sand. So I'll be curious if that's what they did. But if you see these large, long sand traps, this is kind of just what you're going to notice on this course. Also, I believe it's number 16. Where's that at? They kind of stole from Riviera, right? The pot bunker right in the middle of the green kind of thing. And then 18, what hole did we just watch? Is it the Honda where they run the water through? Or maybe it's TPC Twin Cities. It was recently they kind of stole this, or was it Torrey? I'm totally getting blanked on this, but they kind of stole this where they run the river through on 18, which you got to avoid. But yeah, like I said, I mean, from that kind of gives you enough information from a look. And then if you want to just see it a little closer up, here's those big pot bunkers I was talking about. And then here's that number 18. You get a good visual of kind of this area here that if you get into, it's like I said, it's not good. If you get in here, you could literally have no lie, or you might have very little lie. It's deserty, cactus, rocks. If you think of TPC Scottsdale, if you got off the beaten path, it's very similar. Okay, let's look at the scorecard real fast. There was a couple holes that have a little tiny bit difference in yardage, but nothing that's too out of hand. I think it was a par 3 here, and I think it was number 14. I think 14 gained some yards, and number 3 lost some yards. I think he was playing like 176. But anyways, very typical. There's 6, bogey holes, and then you've got 6 pretty, birdie opportunities. That's very standard for the course. Not so much the gentle handshake. If you're starting on number 1 for the first couple of days, that's the number 3 hardest hole. Your number 1 ranked hardest hole is a long par 4, number 4. And then you end on number 9 with also a difficult ending. Of course, that's the hole I mentioned that Kevin Na took a 16. And then at the back, again, you do have, which I always like, the last 3 holes are opportunities that you could switch. You know, if you need to make a couple birdies, it's definitely doable. I mean, if you group the last 5 holes, 4 out of the 5 are, 2 of the easiest holes on the course. And then you got a 14 ranked handicap. So the difference is long par 3s here, some really long par 5s. There's 2 over 600 yards. So again, we're going to need guys that can hit the ball. Ball striking does come into play, and are going to need guys that are pretty good also 200 yards and out. Okay, there's the official scorecard you can see, and like I said, I checked everything. The only thing that was different, so it was 171 instead of 213, and then I think 14 was the one that either lost a little bit of yards. But anyways, yeah, we're pretty much similar. Okay, so what is the skill set ranking you need to win the Valero Texas? We've been talking quite a bit about this, but from a stroking analysis, this is where I'm landing on my larger model. I like good drives. Whenever I see that you need to have accuracy, this kind of statistic or stroking stat, does really well for me. So I use it at like Harbor Town and even Sanderson Farms, like certain courses that are very tight. You have to be accurate. I just go with good drives because what is that? That's either hitting the fairway or the first cut of rough or the intermediate, right? You're not in the rough, but the first cut, and then you're hitting the greens on approach. So it does a nice combination for me. Of course, approach is second. You could flip these either way, 1A, 1B. You can see the round of green I had. The question marks, I'll show you a little bit about that, but I have it in my model. I'm going to use it. Even though there's some discrepancies, it doesn't really show up for guys at top 10 here. Ball striking, as I mentioned, you got some long par 4, some long par 5. So we're going to need guys that, of course, can ball strike. That's combining off the tee and your approach. Putting, of course, as always, but trying to figure out the guy that's going to actually have a hot putter that week, a little difficult. We got scrambling and sand saves does come into effect. The proximity of the pin, funny enough, nothing really super stands out that, as in this course being unique other than other courses. But most of the approach shots do come in between 150 to 175. And then I had notes, and if I take notes, typically is something that I found out that if you take the 75 to 100 and 100 to 125, 23%, we'll say, or 22.5%, those shots come in, and I noted that it was important. So those are in there. Of course, you got the long par 5s. So we need to gain strokes on the par 5s, and you got 4 of them. 2 in between 550 and 600, and then the 2 that are over 600. You got to gain on these long par 3s, or at least, I shouldn't say gain, but at least get your pars. That's one of the defenses of this course. Typically, that's a course defense. When you see these longer par 3s, you're just hoping to get your pars, and I think there's one shorter one that you maybe could attack. And then it does show up, guys. Do make birdies here, as you saw, 20 under, 17 under, possible eagles on the par 5s. And birdie or better opportunities is what I'm plugging in for my large. Okay, so we look at the past 2 years, which will be 2021 and 2019. Again, COVID canceled 2020. We can quickly look at these guys. So I took like the top 6 players. And you can see, again, Charlie Hoffman, as I mentioned, runner-up twice. I wonder how similar he is in stats. Yeah, pretty similar. And if you kind of look through this, the 2 things that stand out to me is off the tee, almost, 95% of these guys gain pretty decent strokes off the tee, which, of course, that's distance combined with hitting fairways. Now, you've got some outliers, right? You got Jordan Spieth, which, no shocker that he didn't almost gained a stroke. Chris Kirk gained about a half a stroke off the tee. But what's unique is typically when you look at this, there's always one red box or 2 red boxes, not one. Everybody, you had to get off the tee and gain some strokes there. And the next that I could see was approach, which kind of stood out. If you look at the top 3, top 4 guys, gaining 7 strokes, 9 strokes, 6, 7. Lahiri is like the only one, but of course made it up with a putter. And then if we look at 2019, when Corey Connors just was in fuego with the irons, still gained with the putter, gained over 2 strokes with the putter. But this is what I was talking about. If you look at around the green in 2019, you didn't, if you look at the top 4, they either lost strokes or, it was neutral. Where you can see, more recent, the top 3 guys gained significant strokes around the green. But in the putter, of course, is kind of on and off, right? You've got Matt Wallace, who was charging to maybe win his first PGA victory. And, but couldn't do it with the putter. So long story short, the two focus areas that I will be looking at is tee, off the tee, and approach. All right, so whenever I have some of these things that I grabbed from previous years, I throw them up for you guys. This is kind of quick info. Ryan Palmer, of course, Texas local native, been on the tour for a while, crafty veteran. He's had a lot of good finishes here. His recent form, kind of so I'll state that right off the bat. But if you're looking for a bet for, top 10, pretty secure that he could definitely do that. You could see a T4, T6, T6, T9, T15 in 2013. And then if you look at the last three winners, it was all about, approach and green and reg, right? So first, third, second. Kevin Chappell, he won, I think that was like 2015. It's been a while, but he has a win here, and I think he either had a runner-up or a top. So before his back injuries, he did very well at this course and had a decent showing. I think he had a 13th or 14th finish over at Corrales. So I did throw a bet on him. Nothing huge, but I did put a bet on him just to outright win. And then if you want to look at guys who's done really well in putting, which is funny, Hideki shows up in Texas. Since 2018, Brooks Koepka is not in the field, but Hideki Matsuyama is in the field. Denny McCarthy, who I was on for quite a while, I think he's an interesting play and an interesting bet because he kind of fits under the Landry kind of focus, of course, Kokrak and CH3. So if you're just curious who's gained with the putter in Texas. All right, now if we go look at my large model, I'll walk you through this real quick. We always kind of start with recent form and the things that I'm looking at and rating. Good drives, number one, got to hit the fairways, 20%. Approach, of course, we already know, very key, 15%. Through ball striking in there again, we got some very long par fours, par fives. Around the green at 5%, putting at 5%, sand saves. There's those proximity to the pins we talked about. I did weight the 150 to 175 because that's where the most of the shots are coming in from at 10%. Then I put in birdie or better, birdies, eagles, because, not that it's a scoring fest, but if it's calm, these guys could go 20 under. And then fairways gained through at the end, just to re-emphasize. So really, you could almost a little bit say I got 25% on off the tee. With no filters on, just looking at the last 12 rounds these guys have played. Want to keep it recent. Chris Kirk is leading. Neesmith, Donald, funny enough. Woodland, Svensson, Stuad, Hadwin, Matt, Streelman, Mr. Rory McIlroy, CT Pan, JJ Spawn has been playing good golf. Nate Lashley had a nice showing at the Corrales. Danny Lee, and then my guy that I am high on. I think he's going to be someone that we're going to be seeing. Austin Smotherman. I told you, I think his game reminds me a lot of Will Z. Still refining. I'm not saying he's as good as Will Z, but if you watch his game, he's really a good ball striker. It's just the putter and short game. And you can see that kind of here, ranked fifth out of these guys on approach, 23rd off the tee. And around the green, you can see it kind of falls apart. Putting is not that bad. Around the green, it seems like to be the killer, and maybe these short proximities. Anyways, that gives you a nice idea of who's in good recent form under the model that I'm looking at. And then next thing I always look at history at this event, at this course, over the last 12 rounds. If they've got 12 rounds, 3 tournaments. Streelman pops up, as I mentioned, he's got a couple top 10s. Corey Connors past winner. Hoffman, two runner-up, so no shocker there. Lucas Glover's interested to me. I think he is an interesting play. I threw a bet on him. I also see a lot of crossover for whatever reason. I need to do a little more deep dive, but I'm seeing a lot of guys who've done well at the John Deere also pop up, is done well at the Valero. So, different green types, but you do have to be very accurate at TPC Deer Run. So I'm going to do a little more dive that might get added in my comp courses. Right now it's not in there, but the more and more I was doing analysis, it just keeps kind of hitting me in the face. I mentioned Chappell, past winner, Chris Kirk. Kuchar's done well here. Zach Johnson, funny enough. So it's kind of funny if you look at the names. And again, the guys that are playing the Valero isn't the who's who, but you get either really good ball strikers, typically not good putters, or you get the guys that are pretty, kind of plotters and good around the greens and putters. So there's my broke back Patty Gazire pops up here. He is not 75 to 1. I would have bet him. I think he's like in the 40s, which is crazy. So didn't throw anything on him right now. All right, if you want to know the guys, because I think one of the key things is, of course, you got to hit the fairway to start the whole thing off. These are the guys that are hitting fairways. That's it. Just who's hitting the most fairways over the last 6 tournaments or 24 rounds. No shocker, Brennan Todd, my buddy from Central Michigan, Brian Stewart. You got Ches Reavy, so, plotters. Streelman, got a little more length. Austin Cook, Marty Laird, who I believe he does have a win here. I think it was a while ago. I have to look at, but of course Andrew Landry, a past winner. So it's kind of interesting. A lot of these guys have had success at this course, and we're just looking at people that hit fairways. And now on the approach side. So this is first looking at who's best on approach over the last 12 rounds. And I was a little shocked because Luke Donald one time was a surgeon with his irons. Also an amazing putter. Again, this is way back when he was world number one. Number one without a lot of wins at all, but he was just getting so many top fives that he was world number one for a bit. He's showing up right now over the last 3 tournaments he's played, and he was been kind of the guy that I kept plugging for 7K and below to get you, if you want a guy like 6,100 on a DFS perspective, was get you 6 to 6 through. It shows a lot why over the last 3 tournaments. Right now he leads this field in approach. Gary Woodman been playing a lot better golf. I wanted to bet Gary, but his odds have dropped significantly. So I've held on that. I like Luke List here. I think that makes total sense. You got Marty Laird again. Guido Miglioli. It's been a while, so you got to watch this data. This is pulling up the data that he's played over on the PGA tournament. He's been struggling quite mightily over on the DP World Tour, so just heads up on that. Maybe he plays better on the PGA Tour, but he's been in a bit of a funk. Of course, Finau, Hideki, Neesmith, who, of course, had that great run. Oh, geez, the previous tournament. So the players, I believe. Maybe I'm off. Like I said, all these tournaments start to run together. And then the other thing I pulled up was because the 150 to 175 is where the most of these shots are coming in from. Graham McDowell, who was doing pretty well over at Corrales. He typically does, past winner there. But he had some back spasms and struggled on Saturday and Sunday. So I don't know where his back's at right now. I haven't noticed that he's withdrawn, but keep an eye on that. Matthew Neesmith, I've already put a bet on. I think he has showed really good recent form, and I kind of aggravated why. I think it was the players where he was up there on the leaderboard. You got Chad Ramey, who just won at Corrales. Tony Finau, Matty Jones, which he hasn't been playing that great at golf, so that's interesting to me. But again, this is pulling up the last 3 tournaments. Okay, and also I threw this in here from a one and done perspective, just to get the brain going. If you're already starting to think about one and done, like I said, I already plugged in Corey Connors, but I'm second guessing that. I have shot up the one and done leaderboard because I had, of course, Kisner, who was runner up, and that was big money, right? The WGC, I think he ended up getting like 1.3, 1.4 million. Like if you won a regular tournament, that's what Kisner got. Of course, if you picked and used Scheffler, he had over 2 million. But where I was going with all that is I'm worried about Corey Connors and how much golf he just had to play. So I got to make that decision on what I'm going to do. Charlie Hoffman, let's talk about him real quick. Well, before I do that, just so you can see, this is over the last 5 years at this tournament. Again, 2020 is missing. The guys who've gained the most strokes total over the last 5 years. So I already mentioned like Ryan Palmer's doing great here. Of course, you got the Hoffman Open. Chappell's had, like I said, a 4th and a 1st. Again, this is pre-back injury. Brendan Grace, that's interesting. Kuchar, where his game is and then Glover, where he's only played here twice, but he had a 4th last year and a T14 before that. So, anyways, just kind of a side note, if you are starting to think, I will give you my one and done tomorrow. But I just, I wanted to look at this, so I thought I'd throw it to you guys now to get you some ideas going. Regarding Charlie Hoffman, I wanted to pull this up because this is everything he's done in the calendar year of 2022. Long story short, his game has been in disarray. He had one, I think, the opening round at the Waste Management Phoenix Open, and then you could see, then it just all fell apart. Yeah. I mean, typically Hoffman was pretty good tee to green, pretty good ball striker. And then could get super hot with the putter on Bermuda. And, that's typically what he did here. So I just wanted you guys to see this before you got all excited. Now, again, it's going to be kind of interesting how many people play him from a one and done perspective. Might be a good pick if you want to just waste a dude. But yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to give you guys that information. Okay, I always mention that I like using comp courses. This is, like I said, if a guy's on the fence and I need some extra help. Also, it starts to show me guys that I wasn't thinking of when I go through comp courses. You're going to notice I have quite a few less. There's not a lot of good comp courses. There's these four I think are the best. I'm also thinking about plugging in, like I said, the John Deere. But we'll see. I got to do a little more research on that. But Sanderson Farms, I think, is the number one comp course, even though, and these fields are pretty similar who play at CCF Jackson. But it's, same length, Bermuda, tree lined. So a good fit. I think the Houston Open at the CCF Houston, or Country Club of Houston, or Memorial Park, probably fine. I think those are good. And of course, same thing. Pretty similar on play, distance, Bermuda. You got Wells Fargo. It's got the length. It's got some trees. It's also got the Bermuda greens. And then, of course, API. Not the trees, but it's got, water. It's got the length. And it's got the Bermuda greens. So with all that said, if you want to look at over the last 6 tournaments that these guys would have played on these tracks, of course, including TPC San Antonio, and using my model, these are the guys that rank out the best. Rory, of course, with the Quail Hollow experience, probably also the API probably helped him out. I don't know how much he's played the Sanderson Farms or the Houston Open. And I think this is the second time he's ever played this. I think he played here back in 2013. So it's been a while for Rory to play the Valero. You got, of course, Corey Connors, Shocker, Hoffman, Stenson. That makes sense prior to his recent form. Same with Finau, as far as I'm concerned. Chris Kirk, interesting. I already put a bet on him. Hideki, Chappell Palmer. Hideki, you got to remember, he's had some, I think it's back spasms. So I don't remember he pulled out of a tournament, but I think he dealt with some back spasms. But of course, he did withdraw from some recent. I think the players, to be specific. Of course, he also didn't play in the match play. But anyways, Lucas Glover pops up again. Mito Piera, Jim Herman, funny enough, has popped up a couple times that I noticed using this model against these courses. Okay, with that said, here are my favorite bets. Again, I always state this is with an eye towards the longer shots. You're betting golf, and I don't get excited about 10-1, 15-1, even 21. I'm always looking for the guys that have the higher odds that could also, of course, win here. So with that said, the guys that I'm interested in, I already mentioned Denny McCarthy. He's at 75 to win on DraftKings Sportsbook right now. So, he is definitely someone I'm very intrigued with. The driver, if he can keep it in play, everything else should be pretty good. Sahith Theegala, I think one of you guys jumped on this and did, a top 10 and hit it. When I had him, I don't even remember what tournament it is now again. But he's been playing good golf, and this course should be a good fit. Of course, he had a good showing at Sanderson Farms, where I believe he came in 8th. So good comparable. He's 100 to 1. So again, if you don't want to bet him, to win, try that top 10. You could probably do that again, especially in this weak field. Dylan Fratelli, he's a local Texas guy, and I didn't do all the local kind of guys. You guys probably know by now, but Fratelli is a local Texan. Well, he's a South African, but now has lived in Dallas or Texas area for a long time. He's got the pop in the bat. He also, of course, won the John Deere. He was another guy that showed up, and I think he's interesting. I mean, it's all the putter with him. If he gets a hot putter, he can get super dialed in with his irons. So I like 100 to 1. Johnny Vegas, I was excited to see these odds because, again, he almost won Corrales. He's been playing really good golf. I think he's got a pretty decent history here. I didn't dive in all of that yet. But once I just, saw Johnny Vegas 55 to 1, yep, I'll take that. And then, you know what? Charlie Hoffman 75 to 1. I mean, he's been in horrific form. But if you're going to give me 75 to 1 on Charlie Hoffman at this course, you just never know. I mean, this goes recent form versus course history, or horses for courses. And for that, I'll throw a few bucks on the Hoff. So that's right now. I've got more, but these are the ones that I probably like the best. With little, again, eye with the longer odds. And then I always give you guys my long shot. I've been close. We've had Russell Knox. I think it was at the Players was one that was a long shot. I'm trying to think of another one. There was another one that was, again, when I say close, like top 10, top 15 for these guys is good. All right, so here's my guy. He's 180 to 1 to win, and he is 12 to 1 for a top 10. So for a top 10, 12 to 1, pretty solid. Let's give you a little bit of background on this guy. He's had 3 wins on the PGA Tour, and all pretty recent, 2018, 19, 21. Most recent was TPC Twin Cities. Of course, he won Sanderson Farms, which got me thinking very quickly about this guy. Here's what he's done at Valero. Played here twice. He's had a 34th recently, a 73rd back in 2018. And then here's his Sanderson Farms record, a 28th and a first, and which is going to help push this over, and really why I got on this guy. If you're listening to my previous notes, Cameron Champ, this is his home course. This is where he does all his practicing. And so when I saw that you get Cam Champ at 180 to 1, who typically gets his 1 win per year, and this course seems like it should be a good fit. Now, a lot's got to happen. Typically, you see here, the putter has to go in fuego. Here he gained 2 strokes, went to Fortinet, but gained almost, 8.5, 9 strokes on the 2. But, he's typically going to gain off the tee. He's typically very accurate. The irons are, can be on and off. It is typically the putter that will, so if his putter, he gets comfy, and these are his home greens, I put a bit of money or, a little more on this than I typically do for a long shot. I really like this one. I called him for the 3M, right? If you remember, again, the John Deere, he had an 11th place last year at the John Deere. His putter, he got some confidence with, went out at the next event and won the 3M Open, and he was not too far off from these odds. If it wasn't exactly 180 to 1 to win then. It was actually the biggest hit that I've had from a betting perspective. So why not? Of course, I'm probably a little biased, have a little excitement, but there's a lot that you could go on here to say, yeah, for 181, I'll throw a few dollars on that. And again, if you're not comfortable with that, go with the 12 to 1 for a top 10. All right, with all that said, that is it for this show. Again, don't forget to click that like button, share it with anybody else that you think might like it. Subscribe if you've not subscribed. And again, remember, I've got the Masters giveaway. I need you to do those things I just mentioned, and then tell me who do you think is going to win the Masters. And last but not least, if you haven't followed me on Twitter, it's not a bad follow. Again, I always keep an eye on everything. As soon as I see it, I tell you guys through Twitter if there's withdrawals or any information that makes sense. All right, guys, I'll have my pick show out tomorrow. And with that said, have a great day, and I'll talk to you guys later.